And so now I will go to share screen. Okay, now when I get to the first video, Marilyn, would you or somebody else, if I'm not getting the audio, let me know.
I will do.
Okay, so I went to look at where are we with drones in reality now. And what you've got is this image of a drone being used to deliver packages. Okay? And this is a real image. This is one of the various test drones that's being used. But it's far bigger than that. We know that it's been used in the military. And we know about the Predator drone, which is the big, powerful drone that's used to go get the bad guys. It's used also in reconnaissance and surveillance. But it goes beyond that into really now being very widely used in aerial photography, mapping, and aerial inspections. So we'll talk about that. And delivery is focused more on commercial and medical than on what I would call consumer products. We'll talk about that. And it's being used quite widely in emergencies. So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk briefly about agriculture and communications. The idea of what we think of as a drone actually begins in 1783. That's when the people who knew about hot air balloons decided to use one as an aircraft. And by 1849, in one of the Franco-Prussian wars, there was actually a situation where bombs were dropped from balloons. But the thing we think of as a drone began in 1898. That crazy inventor named Tesla demonstrated a radio-controlled aircraft. And that's a lot earlier than I would have imagined.
Yeah.
World War I, it was used, drone type of vehicles were used. And although they were developed much more fully in the 30s, they were not used particularly in World War II or Vietnam. And the first real use came in the 70s with Israel, where it started with photo reconnaissance drones and moved on to drones that actually had weaponry. The US developed and began using the Pioneer drone, which was its reconnaissance drone, in the 80s in the Gulf War. And in the 90s developed what we call the Predator drone. 2006, the US began to allow private drones in airspace. And late last year, they adopted some new rules that allow expanded use of drones. So we're going to start by looking at the military police applications. This is the Predator drone. It is a big, bad thing. You do not want to be the subject of what it's aimed at.
You see this?
Mm-hmm.
So if you remember the way these things operate, we've got a military officer who is in some sort of a control on land, and he is guiding this. Okay. Now this is their current version of a reconnaissance drone. Okay, so this will go over and it takes lots of pictures as it's going. And we'll run this video briefly.
Too bad you couldn't put this on the fuse.
Okay, so that's kind of the police applications that are possible. You can think about using infrared to find people at night who are hard to find, who are bad guys. Okay, let's go over to aerial photography for a minute and mapping and inspections. So let's start with this one.
CBS 4 is not the only place using drones. Allstate Insurance is now using them to assess hail damage in Colorado. We caught a pilot flying one over this home in Golden. The drone captures pictures that are then sent right to an adjuster.
The resolution is so great with these drones that the adjusters at their desk can zoom in and see the very minute detail, and they're able to assess the entire roof virtually.
That's terrific. Allstate says choosing this new technology for a claim is much quicker than the old-fashioned way, not to mention safer for their adjusters. CBS 4 is not the only. CBS 4.
Where's the envelope?
Okay, so now we're going to look at surveying and mapping.
From mining to construction, topographical surveying is essential for getting the job right. The rise of drone technology is changing the way surveying is done, making it accessible to a wide range of industries. Drones offer enormous opportunities for surveyors and GIS professionals. With the help of drones, it is possible to carry out surveys and process and deliver surveying data in a timely, accurate, and safe way. Using drones for surveying and mapping has many advantages. Time saving. Traditional surveys can take days, if not weeks. With the power of drones, a survey can be completed in hours, and the collected
that New York
data
thing
and
I watched,
imagery
that
can be
New York
processed
24,
on the same
24 hours?
day.
I mean, that
This
was,
means that you spend less time in gathering data and taking the right decisions. Cost effective. The acquisition and operating cost of a drone survey is much lower than that of surveys through satellites and manned aircraft. The technical requirements for the site and personnel are also low, and the daily maintenance is simple. These factors eventually reduce the cost of data acquisition. Accessibility. With the help of drones, you can easily survey those areas that are otherwise difficult or even impossible to access. For cliffs, rugged terrain, and other areas where conventional survey
Look at
is
this.
challenging and time-consuming, drones offer a great advantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, George, before you continue, we need to have people on mute. We're hearing other conversations.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll stop share for the moment. We're going to mute all. You can unmute yourselves if you really want to yell at me, which you're allowed to. We'll go back to share screen. Okay, so we'll go to package now. They're talking 30 minutes from the time you place the order. Okay, now medical.
UPS today announced a groundbreaking new logistics service to deliver medical samples via unmanned aircraft through a collaboration with Matinet. The program is taking place at WakeMed's flagship hospital and campus in the Raleigh, North Carolina metropolitan area, with oversight by the Federal Aviation Administration and North Carolina Department of Transportation. Today's flight marks the beginning of numerous planned daily revenue flights at the WakeMed Raleigh campus. The UPS and Matinet program represents a major milestone for unmanned aviation in the United States.
Agency by Air is a collaboration between Wilhelmsen and Airbus in piloting the delivery of maritime essentials via Airbus Skyway's unmanned aircraft system to vessels at Singapore's Anchorage. This marks the first time in the world that drone technology is being deployed in real port conditions, with the drone autonomously navigating along predetermined aerial corridors to vessels out at Anchorage. Lifting off from Marina South Pier in Singapore, the Airbus Skyways drone made its first autonomous 1.5 kilometers flight to eastern working Anchorage. The drone landed on the deck of Swire Pacific Offshore's anchor handling tug supply vessel, MV Pacific Centurion, and deposited its cargo without a hitch before.
Okay, now let's take a look at emergencies. That's the picture I had at the beginning. This is a drone in a fire circumstance. We'll talk about a couple of specifics there. This is a test they have been doing. The hose, that's a high pressure hose attached to a drone, taken up in a multi-story building to put out a fire. And that apparently is now moving into various levels of reality. Then there's California. We've heard about California, right?
It's summer in California. That means fire and widespread devastation. Hundreds of square miles of it. Drones are the new weapon to help fight the flames. Instead of sending ground crews into dangerous conditions or using helicopters that can't fly in heavy smoke, drones are taking photos and sending live videos of fires and their aftermath. Menlo Park Fire in California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, is one of the nation's first fire departments to use drones. They're regularly called on to help fight California's long wildfire season. Drones also create detailed 360-degree aerial images to map burned-out areas after the fires pass through.
With a drone, we get darn near the same level of capabilities without putting a person in an aircraft, which is incredibly expensive. The drone's very low cost relative to what you get back.
Cameras on the drone give pilots a bird's-eye view so crews can see things like the hottest part of the fire, whether or not a fire has crossed a containment line, or if people are in danger. In this training demo, pilots use a thermal camera to see people through smoke inside a 5-story building.
I'm going to switch over to thermal view, and suddenly now we can see that we have at least 2 individuals inside this room.
Drones can also measure wind speed and direction, so crews can predict what a fire might do next.
All of our pilots, when they're on duty, have these DJI Mavics with them. And this one's wrapped, so it stands out as a fire department aircraft. And then we have, chargers, spare batteries that we keep with it. And this is what's on our engines on a daily basis.
Larger drones are also a key part of the arsenal. They can fly for up to 40 minutes, double the time of many smaller drones. As well as cameras, they can carry other items like an LED light to illuminate a scene at night.
Some of our drones can carry 10 pounds or more, so the ability to fly things like a life jacket, a radio, a space blanket, that could actually make a difference. Seconds matter.
But flying a drone and working out what's happening on screen isn't easy, especially if you're in a high-stress situation like a fire. With a free app called First Response from EdgyBees, details like road names, wind speed, and crew locations are overlaid on the drone image, so pilots don't have to cross-reference another map. The California Air National Guard is using the MQ-9 Reaper this summer. It's a military drone that flies for hours to identify where the fire has jumped containment lines and houses in the fire's path. The US government has contracted 4 companies to fly fixed-wing drones to fight fires on federal land. This frees up resources like helicopters for water drops. And fire crews aren't the only ones flying drones to fight wildfires. Some utilities like San Diego Gas and Electric are inspecting the power grid from the sky with drones. These third-party drones have LiDAR on board, similar to the technology used in self-driving cars, and generate 3D maps of potential issues like damaged power poles and lines. In the future, drones may truly be the first responders.
By having a drone automatically launch, go line of sight to a call, send that information back, we can actually evaluate the scene and decide, do we need to escalate our response, de-escalate our response?
While over 180 US fire departments are beginning to use drones, widespread adoption is still up in the air.
They're still working out all the rules, the FAA, on how this all works. So we're happy that in this area, we're not being ignored.
Having another set of eyes in the sky is an invaluable tool to help win the battle against wildfires and to save lives.
So I don't know if people saw this. This was in the paper a few days ago. The Sonoma Valley Fire Department has a drone. These are people training on it, and this is pictures taken from the air of the Sonoma Valley, in case that would be of any value to us. And then I don't know how many remember Sasha Berlman. She is the Audubon Canyon Ranch expert in forest fires, and she's big on using fires to try and return areas to be more protected from the big forest fires. So she sent me this.
Drone Amplified pioneered the industry of unmanned aerial ignition with Ignis, providing a new technology for the fire management community. Ignis provides a means of performing aerial ignition in previously impossible conditions, like...
Okay, I want to stop there. Aerial ignition. What this is doing is laying down a containment line by burning a predefined area from the air.
Total inversions or the middle of the night. Coastal plains of Florida to the remotest locations in Alaska. Ignis is providing a safe, affordable, innovative means of managing fire, establishing itself as an essential tool for industry professionals. The addition of a thermal camera payload is providing critical situational awareness while helping facilitate ignition operations during the day or night. Drone Amplified is excited to announce the launch of Ignis 2.0, the newest development in unmanned aerial ignition. Ignis 2.0 is a completely new design that specifically addresses the additional needs discussed.
So agriculture, you can easily imagine this kind of a use of drones, which is becoming more common. It's also being used in aerial reconnaissance, aerial photography, to see what's happening in terms of the quality of a whole series of fields. Again, compare it to the cost of putting up an airplane or a helicopter. And communications.
A flying cow is basically a cell tower in the sky. Cow, in the way we use it here, is cell on wings, as opposed to a terrestrial cow, which is a cell on wheels. So we've come out to rural Georgia to watch a cow fly. In this case, it is a drone that is connected with a tether to the ground. The tether has power and it has a fiber so that the drone can broadcast data into our network. So you use a cell phone, you can text, surf the internet, take a selfie, whatever you normally do, send that signal up to the drone. From the drone, goes through the tether down to a router that then pushes it through a satellite link into the cloud, into the AT&T network.
Okay, so in a disaster area, you can imagine having several of these kind of systems that tie together to provide communication, which is no longer possible because of the loss of cell towers and power. And one can certainly imagine something like that someday being able to impact an area like Oakmont. So what's the commercial situation? Right now, they're selling about 500,000 drones a year, and they're expecting within the next 5 years to get that number up to closer to 4 million. And the cost and quality of the drones, quality being something like how long can it stay in the air. Now, the Predator drones stay in the air forever, but that's a different issue, a different cost level too. Now, this was a chart put together that sort of tells you the story of drones in a sort of what I would call awkward way. If you look at it in cost per ton mile, if you put big packages on a truck and take them anywhere, that costs about 20 cents per ton mile. If you put a 5-pound thing on a drone and send it out, it may cost $2,000 per ton mile, or $1 per pound mile. And so when you start thinking about this, what you realize is drones are not intended to deliver large packages. They're intended to deliver small things. This is analysis that was done relative to biomedical samples in Europe. What they looked at was how long does it take, or how much does it cost to take samples from a hospital to a laboratory. And what they said is compare a van approach where you have 4 vans, which means 4 drivers, okay, with a drone approach, which is 2 operators who can operate 10 drones. And the answer is it's about half the cost. So Amazon says, where is it positive? Where is it negative? It's faster, it costs less for small pounds, and it's actually environmentally much more friendly. The negatives, it is limited in range. It is for lighter shipments only. We have to get through some infrastructure issues and air safety issues. And there are some privacy issues, although there are privacy issues in almost everything. In December, like literally December 29th, the FAA put out new rules. Drones must have a remote ID. So for those of you who've ever thought about drones, this is the ability of the police or anybody who has the necessary software to be able to tell whose drone that is up in the air. If these rules are met, they can now fly over people, over vehicles, and at night. The old rules used to be that drones could only fly over the people who were in fact operating the drone. And the only way Amazon and UPS are able to operate is they are actually certified as effectively airlines, air carriers. Drone operators will have to be certified. I've got a grandson who's into this, who's in the Navy Air area, and he says that you can expect this will be very similar to people being certified as a pilot. So what about drones? They're really a commercial reality. The uses and applications are expanding rapidly. They are limited to specialized high-value applications. Think about the drone that was taking something out to the ship. Okay. If you were the engineer on that ship and you needed a part, you need it now. How much would you be willing to pay to have the drone deliver it? And your alternative is to have some sort of surface vessel do that. Great for aerial camera uses, and it will impact wildfires. So with that in mind, I'm game for questions, comments. You can unmute yourself or raise your hand and I'll try and unmute you. Marilyn?
Oh, I had two comments. One, I saw a presentation years ago when you're talking about the military using it for photographic purposes. They could make one the size of a hummingbird. And just fly it all around. It took amazing pictures. I think most of what you showed, I think most people would agree is fabulous and helpful. I do lament the fact that we would be trading. I guess I don't see the value or don't want to see the value of a 30-minute delivery. I'm not willing to trade off the sound. They are a very annoying sound. And the other problem, and this is true for anything, is the people who violate, right? So you're not supposed to fly them, for instance, I think in state parks, but people do. And they're very annoying if you're going for a hike. I've seen people use them in San Francisco along, taking pictures in that. And it's bothersome. I don't know that part of it I appreciate, but so much more. I mean, it's just to think about one way of combating the fire issue here. That's fabulous news. And I think for medical purposes where we've seen it in places where it's hard to reach areas to be able to get medicine or supplies like that, I think it's fabulous. I guess once you open the door to one thing, you open the door to everything.
Art, if he's, I can't even see Art right now, but Art's question is, are we seeing this as further development by other countries in the area? Oh, there's Art right in the middle. Sorry, ran over you there in the middle of your library behind you. Developing these as weapons, and the answer is of course. Okay, and we would have to assume, I would guess, that the Israelis are way out in front of anything we're doing. They've got some really tough problems with regard to reconnaissance, and I suspect that some of those little gnat-sized, or what are you going to call them, insect-sized drones are running over Syria every day, but I may be wrong. And that's a side point. We cannot stop the development of drones. We can control them. And part of what the FAA was trying to do was deal with two issues. One of them was, we need to know whose drone that is. Okay, if you're not supposed to fly over, if you're flying in such a way that you're in the way of the helicopter that is in fact trying to put out the fire, okay, I want to know who the heck you are, says my local fire department, police department. Okay, so that's the answer. Okay, other comments, thoughts? Carol.
And I know it's progress and it's pretty amazing seeing what they can do. But the thought that kept going through my mind as they showed the different things is all the people that would lose the jobs that they have doing those things. And the security of, them being able to fly over people's houses or whatever, and privacy issues. But those are the two things that came up for me.
I think one of the arguments on the jobs thing is this opens up another type of job.
Right.
Okay, because these are not strictly speaking autonomous in the sense that you sort of wake up in the morning and send one out and catch it in the evening when it comes home. Okay, somebody's got to be managing what's going on, and certainly for the fire applications, I can't help but think that this is a big positive with regard to understanding things like where the containment lines are.
Absolutely.
Other comments, questions? Peggy, comments.
Hi, on the Predator drones, are they battery operated or gas or what? I mean, what?
I truly don't know, but they will operate for the better part of a day, if not a couple of days. They're big time, which, you know, if you think about it, the military is going to set it up that way. That's true. Now, I didn't talk a lot about it. One of the other areas that's actually being developed fairly rapidly is underwater drones. And a lot of that, again, is military. Okay. They say that the use of underwater drones is going to make a major difference in monitoring submarines. Okay, because there are whole areas that you can't really get to if you're trying, you know, if you think about it, how many monitoring things do you have to have out there to understand where the submarines are? And the answer is you can put 100,000 drones out, and the Chinese are doing it. Just to be clear. So they could. By the way, one of the other places is being used environmentally is the water drones are being used up in the Bering Sea area to understand a lot about migration of animals, foodstuffs available for animals, etc. If you think about it, these are really difficult and expensive tasks to get into a ship that's going out there to get this. Whereas if you got some drones that can do it, you can put a lot of stuff, get a lot of information. And they are doing that now.
Question about the weather. What if it's windy or snow or rain or fog? Will say Amazon say, sorry, you'll have to wait till tomorrow when the weather clears up?
Good question. We do know that these can operate with infrared and such, so they can operate in dark and bad conditions. As a matter of fact, Jeff, you could actually flip that around. You could say, if I were in a emergency condition, okay, think about the fireman who said this. I've got people who are caught up on a hill with a fire around them. Okay, I can get them equipment to help them shelter in place. Okay, and I'm not going to send a crew of people in there necessarily, or not be able to get them in. I don't know if anybody remembers the situation that occurred last year where there were the people who were camping in the Sierras and got cut off. Okay, and nobody could get to them. And I've asked myself the question, what would happen if in fact they told you that you could have a half an hour delivery, but it would cost $50? Okay. Would you ever imagine doing that? And the answer is, yeah, I can imagine two types. One of them is medical. I can imagine medical circumstances where in fact there was a value to being able to do that. And the other funny one is I can imagine circumstances where you forgot the kid's birthday. Seriously. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you forgot your passport and you're at the airport.
You forgot your passport, you're at the
there's one
airport.
too.
That one certainly would do. Carolyn.
Weekend, I think it was Air Over America, and it was New York City 24. So it was a 24-hour day of New York by a drone. And it was absolutely fabulous. The sun came up. I mean, it was the most gorgeous. I went to all the little islands. There was City Island and Hart Island, and they were able to go close enough to see the buildings and the people. It was, I don't know how to find it, but it was, Google it. It was absolutely fabulous. And that was a positive use of a drone.
Yeah, and the privacy thing is real. You know, you can argue that if I can fly a drone over your house, I can see you basically when you're out there sunbathing, okay? Yeah. Which you may not want me to see.
That's your problem.
If you saw me sunbathing, that would be your problem.
Yeah. The question I have is how many ground monitors per drone will be necessary? Can they be actually programmed to be safe and, you know, just let them loose, or do you need one pilot or someone some human on the ground monitoring every inch of the way, possibly because there may be unforeseen barriers or other drones that they have to navigate around.
As I best understand it, the drone's basically going to be programmed to a spot. Think of it as a GPS spot. And in a way, it's like a driverless vehicle. As long as it doesn't run into a problem, it can just keep going. So the analysis I've seen said basically, this was the one that said 2 people can man 10 drones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to man them every minute. They have to man them when they're coming into a circumstance that's a problem. Okay. Now, when you get to the fire side, that may be something which you say, hey, I'm going to have, if I'm sending that drone out, I'm going to have a man on that, fireman on that the whole time. But if the alternative is I'm going to have a couple of people in a helicopter, okay, that's still more efficient.
But can you program them? If there are lots of drones in the sky, there'll be other drones with or without identification that you'll have to monitor around. Can they be programmed to automatically avoid other drones?
I chose not to include it, but there's this absolutely weird picture of a drone building in a major urban area that has been designed and tested by Amazon. And think of this as something that's, forgive the comment, straight out of Blade Runner. Okay, you got things taking off and landing. Okay, you know, all up and down this building. Okay, and the comment is that if you have common technology, the drone can easily avoid other drones. Okay, now having said that, your point was you can avoid the other drones that are run by Amazon. Can you avoid the drone that I'm running that's my private one that I'm in your way with? And the answer is the FAA is supposed to work on that. Marilyn.
2 applications for Oakmont. One that we're already seeing, which is a positive. I think if anybody has looked on any of the realtor sites, you know, they're using drones now to take photography, which really gives you a much better view of what that piece of property looks like and how close it is to the other homes. That's a great application, I think. And the other one that would be great to see, what you alluded to in there for the inspecting of our lines, rather than using those helicopters that come. And we had a fatality this past year, you know, of somebody doing that with a helicopter. I think it would be so much safer and a great way, and maybe they would do it even more frequently to check the lines with drones. I think that would be a great application and maybe something we'll see here before too long.
Well, if you think about the use of artificial intelligence, you can think about a drone that is going to monitor a transmission line. And people talk about like all the little connectors up at the top of the line, and some of them are 50 years old and ready to break. And that's what happened up at the geysers. Okay. There's no good reason why a drone can't go in and basically look at all of them and say, you got a problem here, and you now need to put a human inspector on it. Okay. So
wasn't that one of the problems with the lines? I forget which fire now. There were so many. Might have been the campfire, or it was in such a remote area that it just doesn't, it's hard to check those.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things here is you can do a lot more in the way of inspection where it is difficult to do it. I mean, I don't know if you all remember the joke about why the man was looking for his keys under the street light. But if those who don't remember it, I'll tell it anyway. So man walking home runs into another man who's down on his all fours underneath the street light looking for something. Guy who's walking home says, "Can I help you?" And the man says, "Yeah, I'm looking for my keys." And so the guy gets down and looks for a while, can't find anything. And he says, "Well, where did you drop your keys?" And he said, "Over there." And he points at the dark alley next door. "Well, why are you looking for them here?" "Well, this is where the light is." Okay. Well, we're somewhat that way with some of these fires and inspections and all that. It's much easier to do them where it's on the flat and it's on the, than it is when you get over the hill and try to figure out what's going on. John, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. We were talking earlier about military applications, and I think it's interesting that you look at these jet interceptors and they cost hundreds of millions of dollars a piece and so on. But one of the things that they can do now is they fly with with drones, so that you've got one fighter plane controlling multiple drones, and they can do reconnaissance for you. They can actually shoot down other fighters, and it multiplies the efficiency of a single, maybe $100 million fighter plane. And the other thing is, I don't know how many people are watching YouTube and looking at some of the incredible scenes that they're capturing now. But if you compare what was being done maybe 5 or 10 years ago with what's going on now, you have these drones that can give you these incredible pictures of 4 to 8K resolution. And it's just, it's all over the place now. But a lot of these YouTube TV things that you can get for free on the internet, just unbelievable how good they are now.
Okay, Roger, you had your hand up.
Yes, do zone operators require a license or a certificate?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, this is commercial, okay? You as a private citizen can go buy a drone, okay? And there are going to be limits on what you can do with it, but you can fly it. I'm not sure what level of certification you have to have, but I was told by somebody it's comparable to flying a small airplane, a model airplane that flies. But no, commercially, it's going to be a lot like having a pilot's license. Same certification, same kind of training, same understanding of the rules of the game, and license. You'll have to be licensed, and it'll be taken away if you abuse it. Okay, well, that was fun. So 2 weeks from now, we have, for those who've been following the trials and tribulations of our meetings, we were going to have a discussion on quantum computing. That's been put off to February because Mark Randall, who, but before retiring, was very heavily involved in anti-terrorism at the government level. He was part of the regular committee that met on anti-terrorism at the cabinet level before he retired. And he is going to talk about cybersecurity with a focus on the big cybersecurity break that occurred in December. Okay, and what its implications are for us and for security. So that should be fun. Mark, in 2 weeks, 4 o'clock, that's the 27th. We are not having a meeting next Wednesday. Hopefully we'll all be celebrating a inauguration. So thank you very much, all. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks. Nice.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Great.